Welcome one and all to another video on The Controversy. In this segment of the Fact Rant, we pick a random controversial topic and go on an in-depth rant to help intrigue people like yourself to better understand the topic and hopefully come to your own personal conclusion. Vaping. Good old, bad old, not so sure old vaping. This topic has been a great topic for some time now, and just may continue on that path for a little longer. Why is that, you ask? Well, let's find out. I'm Jed, and this is Fact Rant. The virtual cigarette. E-cig. I mean vaporizer. Ugh, if I mess up, I'll have vaping activists breathing heavily while typing hurtful comments to me for months. So the vaporizer, vape pen, no connection to a conventional cigarette, right? If you're watching this and you have no idea what vaping really is, that's okay, because we're starting with the basics. Welcome to Vaping 101. Like Zoe 101, but actually a good series. This is a cigarette, and this is a vape pen. One lets out smoke while the other lets out vapor. How does this happen, you may ask? You see, there are a few misconceptions about both cigarettes and vaping alike. First off, we'll start by breaking down the conventional cigarette. A lot of people have the idea that it is the nicotine that gets you addicted and kills you. These people are only half right. Nicotine is a stimulant just like its first cousin, caffeine. When used, it constricts blood vessels as well as increases the heart rate, and keeps you hooked depending on the frequency of one's consumption and quantity of intake. However, keep in mind that the mild intake of nicotine is no worse than a good cup of coffee. What really kills you in a conventional cigarette is the other 4,000 plus chemicals in the cigarette, 43 of which are known to cause cancer. Oh my God! And let's not even get started on the tobacco and what it does to your lungs over time. When a cigarette is lit, all these chemicals immediately begin to combust, and those compounds convert into smoke that conventional cigarette users inhale. Not to mention the other carcinogens that form during this process. Most of these chemicals follow through with the process of absorption once in the lungs, and go through the user's bloodstream. The ones that cannot be absorbed basically mess up the lungs and tissue that they come into contact with over a very short period of time. Now, all people are different, and as a result their bodies will handle this differently. Some will start to break down earlier than others who may seemingly have little to any major hitches for many years. However, the bottom line is, conventional cigarettes from a biological standpoint, or any other standpoint for that matter, are very, very, very bad for you.
Don't do it!
Now that we know the basics of a conventional cigarette, let's move on to the vape pen. So imagine that you could have all the sensations of smoking a conventional cigarette without any of the health consequences. This is the idea of the vape pen. Sounds amazing, right? But first, let's understand the workings, or the inner workings, of this unbelievable device. Here we have the average vape pen. It's made up of mainly 4 components: the battery, the atomizer, the tank, and the mouthpiece. Let's start with the battery. The average vape pen packs a standard rechargeable lithium-ion battery that goes into a connector that allows it to power the atomizer. That atomizer is in the same section as the tank, which holds the e-juice. Oh, did I not mention the e-juice? Well, we'll get back to that. The atomizer heats up to a controlled low-level temperature that's just enough to turn the e-juice into vapor ready for inhalation via the mouthpiece. This is kind of like boiling water and inhaling the vapor, but with a wick that sits on the coil, or coils. The coils heat up, vaporizing the liquid that has been absorbed by the wicks, which is commonly made out of organic braided or unbraided cotton, non-toxic cotton that is. Now remember that e-juice that I mentioned a while back? Let's get into that. So the e-juice is what the user is taking in or inhaling. This liquid is usually made up of 4 ingredients. A lot less than 4,000 plus in one conventional cigarette. Let's move on. These ingredients are propylene glycol, vegetable glycerin, flavoring, and the infamous nicotine, which is optional. Propylene glycol, PG, is an FDA-approved food-grade ingredient among other things. Vegetable glycerin, VG, fits in the same description. Nicotine, like I previously stated, is a stimulant just like caffeine, but taken in small doses is no worse than drinking the average cup of coffee. Now, flavoring is where things get a bit tricky. There are currently little to no restrictions on the ingredients put into flavoring. Ingredients will vary from seller to seller, and they can sometimes be good or bad. Some flavors of e-juice are known to contain diacetyl. Many flavors actually do. Diacetyl is basically an organic compound that gives off an intense buttery taste. In fact, that buttery flavoring in your popcorn contains diacetyl. So does beer and other foods. However, these are things that you eat, popcorn, and drink, beer, not inhale. Ingestion of it is okay, however, inhalation is a different topic altogether. Diacetyl's molecular structure does not allow it to be absorbed or cleaned out by the lungs. As a result, it ends up binding to the surrounding tissue and causing scars that can and will become permanent with prolonged use. I'll leave a link in the description on the in-depth effects of inhaling diacetyl. Now, you find many people who vape doing it without flavoring. This is just one of the problems associated with flavored e-juice thus far. There have also been recent studies found of harmful carcinogens during the vaping process, but keep in mind the people putting out these findings, people who don't want to see vaping take over. Remember, the tobacco industry is a huge multi-million-dollar industry. And while this vaping phenomenon poses little to no threat right now, if vaping picks up and converts enough conventional smokers, earnings for the opposing industry will lower considerably. Because if one thing is for certain, vaping is 110% better for you than smoking a conventional cigarette. And the companies making these conventional cigarettes want to keep making money. So as you can imagine, a lot of these tests are not done under regular conditions. During one of these studies, the atomizer was intentionally burned out with little to no e-juice to balance it off, which is obviously not what anyone should or would do under normal circumstances. And it was said that rats died when exposed to the vapor. Well, what do you think happens when you replace the test subject's oxygen supply with gases from an overheated metal, among other things? Bottom line is, you just have to be careful what you choose to believe. Don't suck up all the information that comes from credible sources. Because right now it's just a bunch of conflicting opinions in the air. It's just up to you to choose what you want to believe through common sense and research. Always do your research. Hey, Noble, are you researching? So flavoring is a problem right now, but however, ingredients are listed on some because a few companies are raising the bar and making sure that the consumer knows what's going into their juice, such as Halo's e-juice. But this is just one issue among others that are still raising eyebrows right now. As of now, there are no restrictions on the age limit to owning a vape pen. Any kid can go and get their hands on one through the right methods right now. And since the vaping movement is fairly new, there is no real long-term research that can prove the flawless safety of vaping. So is vaping 100% safe? Well, we do know that it is hands down better for you than smoking a conventional cigarette by far. In fact, people who made the switch from conventional cigarettes to vaping are actually getting better physically. No more tar breath, healthier breathing lungs, no more yellow teeth, etc. These are the benefits of vaping for smokers, but what about the long-term effects of the practice? The thing is, we don't know, and this is really the main cause of the controversy. What we do know is that vaping has little to no short-term effects. The only ones are common rejection or mild allergic reactions to the PG, which can be solved by switching to juice with more VG, dry mouth, which can be solved by drinking more water or lessening on the amount of time that you vape, coughing due to the mild irritation of the lungs. Now keep in mind that anything going into your lungs that is not regular O2 is foreign and not what they were intended to process. However, vapors do eventually get over this and continue with little to no issues. So, is vaping really 100% safe? Well, the answer is we don't really know yet. Does it have the potential to be 100% safe? Absolutely. However, there are a number of variables that have to be taken into account first, such as the e-juice and its base ingredients, long-term studies done by unbiased researchers, etc. Vaping has been around since 2003, remade by this guy. The concept even further all the way back to 1963 by a guy named Herbert A. Gilbert. And some people have been doing it since 2007, and further back with no issues. But compared to conventional cigarettes, it has not been around that long. As of now, the vaping community as well as the FDA are still trying to sort things out, as vaping basically blew up overnight, to the point where it happened so fast that the FDA restrictions could not be made along with other stamps of approval. Obviously, there's way more to say about vaping that'll make this video way too long, so I've only scratched the surface and given the basic details. But that leaves plenty of room for you to do your own research. I've left some links in the description to help with that. So, is it worth the risk if any exist? Have you been vaping? What has your experience been like, and were you a smoker that got into vaping? Tell us what you think in the comment section below, and don't forget to leave a like if you like. Subscribing is free and it's also cool, so be sure to do that too if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, and keep on ranting. Vaping basically blew up overnight.
Overnight.
Diacetyl is is it diacetyl or diacetyl? Diacetyl. Does it really matter? Is it like potato?